Oh my, I'm first, am I? That makes me a little nervous. It's been a while since I shared a scary story. Still, to pick this room of all rooms. I did tell you this one was haunted, didn't I? I don't know why, but whenever guests are invited to this room, everyone feels terribly cold. Even with the heater on, a cold wind blows in from somewhere. See, just like today. Don't you all feel that cold wind coming in? All of our guests always hate this room. And if you stop using a room, bugs soon appear, right? I always clean this room thoroughly, but if people don't use it, well, the air starts to stagnate anyway. Maybe I'm just imagining it. After all, the children always seem to enjoy it just fine. I'm talking about you, Yoko-chan. Hey, Yoko-chan, you liked this guest room, didn't you? When I bought you some origami one time, you sat by the veranda and nobody could pull you away from it. Did you know that origami possesses a strange power? It's just a single square piece of paper, and yet, with one sheet, you can make all sorts of things. Do you know why there are so many ways to fold it? I don't. Oh, is that so? Well, you see, origami has been used in various rituals over many time periods, from things such as charms to something entire villages carry out. That's why there are so many different types of origami. Even now, people still use origami for things like the paper strips people write their wishes on for Tanabata, right? In fact, this village had its own origami ritual as well, something everyone took part in. Hey, Yoko-chan, you once made a small cute boat, right? What type of ritual do you think that was used for? Let me tell you. Origami boats, you see, are used to pray for the souls of the dead, and normally people put mementos of the dead in them. But they also do something else special with them here. When taming the soul of a sinner, they put a stone in the origami when they wash it away. Why? Because it was normal for a criminal facing the death penalty to be executed with a stone. First, once the criminal was almost done for with a stone the size of a human head, they'd take one the size of a hand and hit them between the eyes. It was said their soul would then reside in that smaller stone. It was a ritual to break their curse, an attempt to cleanse their soul by washing it downriver. So, who do you think it was that washed this origami boat down the river? A government official? No, it was a family member. A family member who would send their origami boat down the river. Well, for the family, it was sort of a mourning ritual as well, regardless of what others thought of it. Long ago, there was a husband and wife by the name of Isao and Mai, and Isao was a wanderer who came from another village to this one. And Mai was a girl from the village who had lost her entire family and lived in a house on the verge of collapse. The villagers didn't think much of Isao. "We don't know where he came from. We don't know anything about him," they said. "He deceived Mai. That man is always grinning. I can't tell what he's thinking. He's gotta be up to something, don't you think?" Isao was an affable man, but that all backfired. I hope that Isao guy doesn't do anything bad. He lives alone with Mai, right? There's nobody to look out for her. He's dangerous. We gotta be careful. That's how rumors go in villages. They're cold towards outsiders, after all. That was why it was hard for Isao to make friends, or even find work. But every day, he left to work elsewhere. That Isao guy, where on earth is he working? Everyone whispered, as they were the types who had to know everything that was going on. I can understand that feeling, though. At the time, the villagers meddled in everything, like they were family. So all sorts of rumors spread about Isao too. He has to be stealing things from the neighboring village. Even though he leaves the house, I bet he's just playing around and making Mai do all the actual work. Everyone just said whatever they wanted without evidence. But the pair lived together happily. Mai was a pale woman, her skin so white that she almost looked sickly. That was why she always wore red, so she looked a little healthier. She always wore a red kimono. But she was a very pretty woman. Even though her face was normally pale, when she put on red lipstick during festival days and such, she was utterly bewitching. On that note, Yoko-chan, you're suddenly so grown up. Have you perhaps fallen in love? Eh? Ah, that look of surprise. So I was right. You're like a whole different person now. Well, they do often say that love changes a person, right? That you become more beautiful or more lively, things like that. Hey, who do you have your eye on? It isn't someone I know, is it? Oh, I'm sorry. I was sharing a scary story. Let me get back to it. So I'd reached the part about Mai and her pale skin, yes. So, everyone looked at her like she was weak, but that wasn't actually the case. She was a very strong woman. After all, she'd lived all alone until Isao showed up, and that made her strong. No matter how much the villagers speak ill of Isao, she wouldn't listen to any of it, and she often got into fights with them over him. Of course, the villagers didn't like that, especially the men who liked Mai. One day, when Isao was sending an origami boat downstream, a villager by the name of Heita came across him. Heita was a childhood friend of Mai's, but he had always had a crush on her, so he really didn't like Isao. But he was a large, violent man, so Mai didn't like him back. "What are you doing?" he asked, casting a suspicious and reproachful eye Isao's way. "Nothing," Isao said, refusing to elaborate. "You're up to no good. Come with me." After all, in this village, the origami boats were used for a very important ritual. They weren't something children played with, so Heita thought he was up to something. He then tried to drag Isao back to the village office. "Stop! What are you doing?" Isao had no idea why Heita always treated him this way. Thinking about how much he must hate him, Isao ran. "That guy, he just got up and ran away after pushing an origami boat down the river. He must have killed someone," Heita told all the villagers. It was Mai who was surprised. She didn't believe what Heita said, but something must have happened if he was sending an origami boat down the river. But there's no way he would kill anyone. Perhaps he was... Mai had a general idea of what he might have been up to at the river. She waited for him to return so they could talk, but more and more time passed, and he still hadn't shown up. I'm home. It was late night by the time Isao returned. He was unable to go home because the villagers kept hunting him down. I'm home. Huh? Mai? The house was quiet. Usually she was cooking rice porridge by the fire, but only the flames burned. Where on earth could she be? She left the fire burning. Push the toilet door. Mai? Perhaps she's in the outhouse. Do you know what outhouse means? It means the toilet. In those times, the toilet and bathroom were outside the house because they didn't yet have sewers, and they got rid of the dirty water on the dirt in the yard. It was terribly cold that day, and he walked outside to the toilet with his breath forming white in front of him. Isao! Suddenly, someone touched his shoulder as he stood before the toilet. A gruff male voice halted him. Isao slowly turned around. Who's there? Who, my ass? What did you wash down the river earlier, huh? It was Heita, and he had snuck into their yard. Are you still going on about that? Give me a break. More importantly, where is Mai? If you did anything to her, I swear. Then something seemed to crash in the toilet, and the door creaked open. Mai! Her face pale, Mai pressed her hands against the toilet wall. Her pale face seemed to melt into the darkness, making her red kimono stand out even more. After that, things went from bad to worse. Isao, what did you do to Mai? What did I... Mai? What's wrong? Ugh! Several villagers Heita had summoned stepped out of the darkness and dragged Isao away. Let go of me! Stop it! Ugh! Mai felt dizzy as she stood up and she planted a hand on the ground. She simply wasn't feeling well. Heita had misunderstood the situation and no doubt thought Isao did something to her. Stop! What are you doing? They had dragged him pretty far away. Shut up! What did you do to Mai? What are you scheming? Heita was also desperate, and the more Isao struggled, the more dire the situation became. Mai collapsed! I have to go to her! Stop lying! What are you up to? What? After that, Heita and several other villagers started beating Isao. Even after they beat him several times, he kept standing up and faced them. But Heita and the others all ganged up on him and tied him up. They pushed his face into the ground and put his hands behind his back. Be quiet! When Isao lifted his head, they slammed it back into the ground. His face to the ground, unmoving, Heita then tightly tied his hands together. But when he went to stand him up, Heita realized something. They hit Isao's head so hard that he had died. Dawn broke, and the next morning, Mai woke up. She realized Isao had been taken away and walked all over the village looking for him. But nobody would tell her where he was. She walked around until evening, and then finally she found him. He was dead, with scratches on his forehead that appeared to have been done by a small shovel. He was on top of the gallows. So, everyone, did you know that there's a stone stage to the north of this village? It's like a table made of lots of large stones. It's surrounded by sacred rope and forbidden to enter. I think that place may have once been the gallows. And Isao was dead on those gallows made of stone, his eyes wide open. Heita decided that because Isao had committed a crime, he had to be executed. Mai broke down in tears, screaming. Then she made her way to Heita's house to protest. But Heita spoke with a triumphant look on his face. Mai, forget about him. Then he put a long, thin stone in her hand. I kept this for you. Put it in an origami boat and send it downstream. It was the stone that had hit Isao between the eyes. That's terrible. Yes, it was. You killed him! Holding the stone, she leapt at Heita. Her kimono fluttered. She brought the stone down, aiming for his head. Stop it! Heita tried to fight back. Because he dodged it, the stone hit his face and arm, making blood spurt everywhere. But he was too strong for her, and he was able to pin her down. I hate stories like this. It's much better when someone's able to swiftly get their revenge. But, holding Mai down, Heita said smugly, Mai, if you keep carrying on like this, you'll be a criminal too. What an utterly despicable man he was. But in the end, Mai did not commit a crime. After all, Mai was with child, and she cried as she told her story. That origami boat that Isao set out in the river, that was no doubt to pray for the safe birth of their child. Because he said that you should write prayers on long strips of paper and send them downriver. But different villages have different customs, and Isao lost his life because of it. When Heita learnt that, he was unable to punish Mai as well. Heita took the stone that killed Isao and had a temple take it into its care. Mai visited the temple every day, almost like she was waiting for the slightest chance to steal it. But in the end, she was unable to get her hands on the stone. And in time, she left the village and went somewhere far away. Some time later, people began talking of the spirit of a woman in red, holding a baby who was seen near the village's river. In her fist, she gripped something like a stone. Who should I hit next? She apparently muttered. After that, this village stopped holding the origami memorials. After all, they stopped beating criminals with stones too, because whenever they tried to hold the Origami memorial, apparently Mai's ghost would appear. Hey, why do you think I shared this story? Well, to tell you the truth, we have the stone right here that was used to hit Isao. The temple that took it in belonged to our ancestors. Apparently, the statues and such ended up in different places and different hands over time, but Isao's stone alone remained here. Perhaps someone tried to get rid of it, but now that stone alone is still here. And not only that, but it's in the family altar in this very room. You don't believe me? Then why don't you check the altar for yourself? Look for it. You said you wanted to look for it, Yoko-chan. So I see you want to see it, huh? I see. Then please, go ahead. Although, please don't knock over the mortuary tablets. Look inside that drawer. Over there seems suspicious. Be careful. If you handle the stone roughly, you'll be cursed. But it's okay. Handle it with care and nothing will happen. After all, I take it out every now and then to look at it. Sometimes I also clean it. It feels like that's what the stone wants me to do. Yoko-chan, if you take the stone out, light one of those incense sticks over there. I want everyone to pray. Yes, that's it. It's a long, narrow stone, right? Okay, light the incense. Everyone, put your hands together. Okay, Yoko-chan, put the stone back in the altar. That's right, nice and neatly. Well then, let's hear the next story. But take care, this room really is haunted. I don't know where it might come from, but something is definitely here. Well, who's up next?